Dear spiritual brothers and sisters, and particularly the Vietnamese Buddhist brothers and sisters, I am extremely happy to be here, talk one important text wrote by Nagarjuna, Losuposa. Losuposa, in Sanskrit Buddhist tradition, almost considered like second Buddha. Very famous I think not because of some of these snakes, but because of his writing, really marvelous. And also the writing in such a way, you see, he always, you see, as they put the view through reasons, not just mere the quotation of Buddha's word, but he rather is a clear presentation through reasoning. So because of his sort of way of presentation, you see, through logical way, so therefore all his sort of follower, the immediate follower like Arya Deva, and also the Buddha Palita, the Vivek, Bhavivik, all these great scholars, great masters, you see, they always explaining Buddha's teaching through reasoning. So I'm extremely happy having opportunity to touch, isn't that? Or say the text. Although text not very easy, and fortunately now no time go through, so that's for me fortunate. If we longer time go is the word by word, that is sometimes the text. Some portion, I myself not very clear. So then, of course, Vietnamese Buddhist, we is the same as the follower of or holder of same tradition, Sanskrit tradition, and like Nagarjuna's, Losuposa's sort of a tradition. So actually, we are the follower or holder of Nalanda lineage, great Indian Buddhist learning center, Nalanda. So, very strong light. I can't see those people's face. Now easier. This had neither yellow hat or red hat or black hat. This is something modern hat. Very practical hat. Already, I think, 10 minutes, I think, delayed, right? Because of traffic.
Traffic.
So you all have text or not?
They do.
Text?
Do Vietnamese translation.
English?
English, Tibetan, and Vietnamese translation.
Vietnamese also? Yeah. No. Then, I think organizer, I think should make available.
Can we have some text on the stage?
Hey, yeah. For them. No, I already have, you see, this Tibetan. Did it? The essence of this text, two things: infinite altruism and right view or view of or the wisdom which understand shunya. So these two things are the sort of the main subject. Now, what is purpose? What is our benefit? These two things. Firstly, altruism brings inner strength. We can observe those people who have more compassionate mind, altruistic mind. Their attitude is very open, so easily communicate with other people, and through that, and such people, I think their whole sort of conduct very truthful, very honest, and transparent. So that brings trust. Trust brings friendship. Friendship brings harmony. So we are social animal. So our day-to-day life very much related with the rest of the people. So more warm-heartedness there, person 24 hours much happier. And that person always can feel you surrounded by friends or same human brothers, sisters. If that kind of mental attitude lacking, extreme self-centered sort of attitude, then difficult to carry the conduct such a transparent or honesty. So, as a result, suspicion, distrust. Result, finally, you feel you surrounded by hostile or distrust people. So result, you feel very lonely. That's very much against basic human nature. So the altruism, not talking about next life, not talking about nirvana or Buddhahood, simply more experience about altruism, this very life becoming much more happier. And since mentally more healthier, more happier, so the physical condition also becoming much more healthier. Healthier, right?
Healthier.
Like that. Now the other topic, the understanding of shunya. Shunya, the ultimate reality. The very meaning of the emptiness is the meaning of interdependency. So that concept very, very helpful to develop, the holistic view. In the reality, everything interdependent, interconnected. Even our health, many things involved. or mental peace, also many things involved. So now, broadly, global level, speaking, the environment issue. We, human being, and the human being, other animals, everything interdependent. So, in order to know this holistic picture, the concept of interdependency is immense help. So sometimes I'm telling non-Buddhist, I'm telling as far as the religion is concerned, they have no interest about Buddhism, and actually they should be non-Buddhist tradition. For example, Christian or Islam, traditionally, if their family belongs to that traditionally, then much better to keep their own tradition. But meantime, this view, the interdependency, interconnectedness, this view, this idea come from Buddhist word, but is applicable way.
Very applicable.
Applicable to all people in our daily life. So that the concept broader way.
Very
broadened our mind, our view. So through that way, our action become more realistic. So many problems is due to a lack of holistic view. We just look one single sort of small angle and pick up one single sort of cause or factor. Then try to deal with that. So reality, many things involved. But your way of handling is just looking or aiming just one part. So your action become unrealistic. So therefore, in order to bring more realistic attitude, more realistic sort of approach, it is highly necessary to know the reality. In order to know the reality, holistic view is very essential. So this doctrine,
this teaching,
the teaching of interdependency, another sort of aspect of interdependency is selflessness or absence of independent existence. So these two things. So now, text. So these two things, altruism related with warm-heartedness or heart. This concept of interdependency is related with intelligence. So something like food for brain or intelligence, this concept is very useful. For food or fuel for warm-heartedness, this altruistic sort of teaching is very, very helpful, like that. Now at the beginning, of course, most of you understand English a little bit, like me, isn't it? We can compete, your English and my English. So the Vietnamese Buddhist tradition, I do mainly through Chinese tradition, isn't it? Or sometimes maybe direct connection with India, maybe. But most cases, I think through Chinese tradition, like Korean, Japanese, and also the Vietnamese, the original text, mainly in Chinese text.
Chinese script.
So the Chinese Buddhist or the tradition of Chinese is, I think, start the 2nd century, 3rd century, like that, 3rd, 4th century. Tibetan tradition start 7th century. So therefore, we are a younger student of Buddha. You are elder. So at the beginning, I always make salutation to Chinese Buddhists as well as the Vietnamese Buddhists. Thank you. Then the youngest Buddhist tradition, some of these American Buddhists, youngest Buddhist. So now Tibetan. The Vietnamese the Engi Duga, Shologa Engi.
Gosha.
Oh, Jibsa.
The dinal Shologa Juru Shologa Chik Tebatu.
Ka.
The version del Shologa Chik Tebatu.
Tanda Kristo.
La.
Tanda Kristo.
Tanda the Tana Juru the Tebarishan. The Gewayoma.
Shologa Juruti.
Juru.
Yeah, that's enough. Shungdi 질 도디 공다 규공 니 셰드잖아요. 디 규공도 저대도. 가르쳐는 정주 셈진 제바 손에 정주 셈스대한디 질 동아 투모레 리디아다 근디 정주 셈사 소 공부셔서디 nga lami 그 로기 단담 정주 셈 외세기 등이 패지 뒤존도 순거야래. 자다디 슝디 잡았견세 사회 저슝디 성주저유 류니베 직제 남남 송셰베 직제 뭐부 탐제 당자와 풍부감도 계시도 송전스뭐 남자 셜다미 냠니베 라스선에 맞고 동반이 기정신 노세야 까방아체 디 성주저유 직제 다 디인저가 경영이야래. 근데 인도 슝디기 외세 다 단도 외세가 조금입니다. 숭주 조금 디고 조승 거야래. 자, 근데 인도 산에 나 라메 투모 모임베 단담 창주 셈디 드셔 준비가 인도 산에 창주 셈지 스트레샤.
The text that we are going to study is entitled Commentary on the Awakening Mind. And in terms of the scriptural sources of this particular text by Nagarjuna, there is the Sutra source and also the Vajrayana Tantric source as well. But between these two, the primary source really is the Vajrayana Tantric teachings. Therefore, although the term Bodhicitta, the awakening mind, is used commonly both in the Sutra teachings and in the Vajrayana teachings, here the term Bodhicitta, or the awakening mind, has primarily the meaning according to the Vajrayana teachings, because the root text to which the Nagarjuna wrote this commentary is really 5 lines citation from the 2nd chapter of Guhyasamaja Tantra, where it is spoken in the words of Varochana, and therefore, so the text, when it bears the title Commentary on the Awakening Mind, here awakening mind really refers to the Bodhicitta, or the awakening mind understood according to the Vajrayana, particularly the highest yoga Tantra, where awakening mind is understood in terms of the subtle clear light, ultimate clear light mind, both at the level of completion stage and particularly at the level of the union of clear light and illusory body. So that's the primary meaning of the term awakening mind here.
다음도 저디 뭐부터 저 당저와 시소게 안다 까먹어보디기 다 규칙 칙칙디 지 타투도 취시타는 대당 연구도가 타투 성주저규 자 규리야 세규다 배규 니체 안드디 중국 규도 차샤나 세규지기 하래 중국 가자 산드의 규디 배규지브리 배규리야 지 직직 다 다다 몽골 대학에 되지 자 이들이 타투도 취시관에 대야 sombre 저도 선두 저기 찍了 아니 시주 전부 주세네 하용부 시비 규디 별 규야 말에 맞아 시주 전부 주디 시주도 아주 참 찾아는 줄 매비나 맞아 시 와다 시주 주스 쓴 거야 별 규셔도 시주 말에 제니 저들이 저기 직직들 나 먹고 자야 되지 다 안데 고물루기 다 직지 또 될자임도와 색 단단 색 조림지 또 자임 거야 단단 색 조림 샤인도 자네 그게다 가소리 직동 예미 사지 차디가 인도 자네 유유에서 동바티 유유에서 등예지로 르베이시 세대디 데 가자 유정거에서 니에 나네 안드디기 저 유유에서 단 파용기하래.
So when we speak of commenting on the Vajrayana text, particularly the Tantras, there are, generally speaking, two main categories of Tantra, referred to as the explicit Tantras and hidden Tantras. So the explicit Tantras are like Kalachakra Tantra, but the hidden Tantras include, for example, Guhyasamaja Tantra, which is the source of this particular text by Nagarjuna. So in the hidden Tantra, like Guhyasamaja Tantra, the meaning of a particular, even a single term can be interpreted in many different ways. For example, one uses the interpretive method of invoking, applying what is known as the 4 modes and the 6 boundaries, so within which a single term is interpreted in different ways at different levels. And here, for example, Guhyasamaja is the root source of this particular text, and Guhyasamaja Tantra, root Tantra, has 6 principal explanatory tantras, out of which 5 of them have been translated into Tibetan. So 5 of them are available, 1 was not translated. So, so here, when Nagarjuna is commenting on the Bodhicitta, the awakening mind, he's commenting on Bodhicitta at the level of not only Vajrayana, but also at the level of the completion stage, understanding of Bodhicitta, awakening mind, in terms of the clear light mind at the level of completion stage. So, and here, so when we talk about the clear light mind on the completion stage, essentially we are talking about indivisible unity of awareness and emptiness. So here, we have 2 dimensions. One is the objective dimension, which is the object emptiness that is being experienced by the wisdom mind. The other one is the subject that is experiencing that emptiness, which is the subjective clear light. And between these two, the principal understanding of bodhicitta that is being brought in this text by Nagarjuna is the previous one, the first one, which is the objective emptiness or objective clear light.
도시원에 쉐베이나 너도 공지 나네 콜로를 무슨 숨도와 콜로 당부 den시 청고 콜로 바로바 체님에 배 청고 콜로 숨바 레버 나버치 청고를 전에 숨숨도와 제니 다 유디에서 다 den시 콜로 당부 den시 청고 되기 산제배 처기 좀실도 소인 거래 바로 체님에 청고서야 돼 시싱 슝들이 이게 유디에서 단 파버래 다 되네 너도 공제 rangi kamne ene leban namba chebe chongorsin 너도 공제 더부 ene 생이 숨 차친 더 숨 랑 생이 두모도 차친 숨고에 인도자네 leban namba cha와서 송어레디 너도 지 콜로숨베 텔라 ene 하나 디시베 닝군 도스니 규라메 셰자는 도시도가 다 전에 규라메 규라마다 가서다 규라메 셰자는 도다 규라마 전에 디다 슝디기 슝산지 서버 슝산지 디기 또 유전에서 되는 법인 거예요. 저다가 라미기 다 저가 슝디디 대대보다 콜로 발백권의 송시에 동리되다 유지에서 되다 콜로 탐해권의 송시에 유진유에서 딘이부터 숭둔제니 탑시 예르메 집을 타네 에네 람주지 송도가 당가 겁니 디잔드지 송이야.
So when we talk about the teachings of the objective clear light mind, we are essentially talking about the Buddha's teaching on emptiness, and which is presented in his various sermons. And from the point of view of the sutra, a system of teachings, for example, according to the Samdhi Nirmochana Sutra unraveling the intention of the Buddha, we identify three turnings of the wheel of Dharma. The first turning is the Four Noble Teachings on the Four Noble Truths. The second turning primarily constituted by the teachings on the perfection of wisdom, Prajnaparamita Sutras. And in these two turnings of the wheel of Dharma, Buddha presents principally the objective clear light, which is the teachings on emptiness. And then the Samdindrimochana Sutra itself refers to the third turning of the wheel, which is referred to as the clear distinction of the various natures. And here, a subsection of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma includes sutras like Tathagata Garbha Sutra, the Essence of Buddhahood Sutra. And in these teachings, in addition to the objective clear light of emptiness, the Buddha also teaches the subjective clear light of the wisdom. And so what is unique about the Vajrayana teachings is that Vajrayana teachings presents a way in which the objective clear light, which is emptiness, and the subjective clear light of wisdom can be brought together into an indivisible union, and thereby presenting a path by which one can approach enlightenment through this indivisible union of the objective clear light emptiness and the subjective clear light wisdom.
지tab시 송지 세니 배시 산제베 최지던 조단치 탑시 송지세 다한데 나가는 가서 거로는 탑시 송도 제단디 로직로 탑시 이게 나창한지 탑시 뭐 이름이 주셔야 돼요.
So in generally, the union of method and wisdom is a very essential part of the Buddhist path to enlightenment. And particularly in the Vajrayana context, the union between the method and wisdom is brought within into an indivisible union where within a single event of the mental state, both the wisdom and method are present. So it is brought into an indivisible union.
Yeah. 다도 루주기 청주섬지기 하나 선두저기 지도마 자유주산에 뭐부 탐자 당차와 세야되기 산제베 최 마도베 지 응원다 다대 지다 가다 지 떠주예베 취규 창말로하게 소울 세야다 आत्मा से आजी सुंगुदुआ और ती यानी 풍부 말에 된 신도 다 여대식 시기하래 어디 자 산제베 달려 타냐 근데 저거서는 뜻이랑 다 써야지 민다래 그 계속 참여래. 아까다 뉴어맵에 딱와. 아니 풍부하다고 차샤노 도모 사도 저도 도매런 시도 와. 디멤버 친 직부런시 딱직. 아니 풍부를 직질 돼야 되지. 차토모 사대지. 다스잖아요. 그걸 때문에 랑자시 해야 되지. 네 뜻이랑 신세. 대대비 다 나바 탐지도 요 말이스. 뭐 탐지 당자 왔어. 배는 뭐 탐지 당자 왔을 전에 뭐 무슨 전에 만주 로리야 나 세야데 차서데 풍분한 사용도 와. 나의 류드 셈니기 난도 하지네 나사로 시셔도 와. 된저기 강을 때는 나오냐 로 차르세 풍분가 대다 대라왕 교명이 풍불리 된신데 다 자원에 야말에 다 잘 뭐부터 당자왔어.
So the text begins with a citation from the root tantra of Guhasamaja, where we read, devoid of all real entities. And the way in which Nagarjuna interprets that line is to really present the understanding that that in the Buddha's teaching, any notion of some kind of real entity that possesses an independent existence is rejected. So historically, there evolved many different philosophical schools of thought, and except for the Buddha's teaching, all ancient Indian schools of thought subscribe to some notion of an eternal principle, referred to as Atman, or some kind of eternal soul. And the characteristics of this eternal soul is understood to be unlike the aggregates, the body and mind, which is the basis of that self, which is multiple. The self is thought to be a unity, a single entity. And unlike the aggregates, which are impermanent, the self is thought to be permanent and eternal. And unlike the aggregates, which are dependent upon other forces, the self is thought to be independent. So a notion of an eternal principle that is unitary, eternal, and independent was postulated. So Nagarjuna reads the first line as rejecting this kind of eternal principle, both in relation to the self, but also in relation to the basis of that notion of self, which is our body and mind. Because generally, in our naive sense of our own self, when we think about the idea of I or me, and the notion arises as if coming from our body or coming within our mental processes. So Nagarjuna is pointing out that not only does this self, which is imputed, exist, but also the basis upon which the notion of self arises, which is our body and mind, these physical and mental aggregates, also are devoid of any independent existence.
Yeah. 풍부함등 기시 중도점은 남방바 사대기 랑데 좀 더 시승도가 당 좀 더 시셔난 게 지라마에 좀 더다 너데베 좀 더 얘기 강사가 담이 쌈 직승구야래 최지 담이 승구야 말해 지자다 대니부터기 공도 가셔베 무디베 에네 좀데 따셔베 덕지랑 다 사디 야마레스 다음에 직수 대선도 마세베 에네 풍부 낭네 에네 풍부리 왕교gen 게다 랑자치 맞으로 시작도 된대기 강사 랑자투 된대지 나지 야마레스 어다 된대기 강사가 다음에 직승거래 뜻이랑 다 매베 다음에디 다음에 rak버리 강사 랑자투에 자유지 동에 다음에디 다음에 강사가 다음에 딜루 다음에 차차되어래 세상 어다 된대비 다음에 승거래 다 풍급 계지기 최디기디 다도 주어래 가라 담버 주어래 풍금 계시기 최디에 뒤에 너나 수전의 셰바 수시니 다 조 수시니로다 지 데미도지리인데 여르데네 디 스타시나 패널스게 미도와 다 안데 패널 여더버티 초와디도 셰기여 초와디도 럽디 셰바르 초와디도 영향이 셰베 리디디 야 수전의 땡기도 와 그래서 디니부디 안도다 개셔부셔도 와 자 디리인도 전에 셰바 강로 댄세 수전의 풍부디디 초지 다 초참에서 다가 참이 뒤직 셰네 뒤진 참이 셰네 참이 디상과 락바 풍금지지 수정이 직샤 다 풍금지지기 셰베지디 예 셰바 깨지 참이 그 균투네 아니 셰베 균지 샤제 어디는 셰요래 그래서 딘데기 애니 풍금지지 남샤직 샤샤바데 다 강사 강의 때에 딱에 시디 봐. 지 산지 최나리야. 강사세야디 풍불을 된심이야 말이지. 강사세야디 풍불을 때에 샤바레스. 전다 디숭도와 다들서 강사 강의 때에 다야게 시 풍부되기 다 안들데 수전 차샤는 저지 참네. 나셔바 차샤는 즈부 차샤는 기지 참네. 다 디지 사레 아니 숨진이 샤베 다 진짜지 다 최지다면 마에 아니 좀더 고마 좀더 리야 좀더 니샤베 넘릭 봐도 우모부 니샤베 다 넘릭베 가르친 거잖아 된대기 전도 얘기 아니 송지 참이 샤대야지 송진지 참이 디싹베 아니 송어 라과다 다 숨어도 짐바 디 참이 숨시 참이 싸네 다 샤샤버디 야 말이스 아니 다단 저조 디입니다 가서 주디 숨어디 숨어 뒤 철을 받도 보이나요 그 차셰 체야 예버지마도 차셰 매베 참이 자원의 야 말이스 근데 인도산에 파파파파 자리에나 니 송외처 강이나요? 싸나니야 야마레스. 유영은에 주버지 시샤체. 유영은에 주버지 시샤체니. 아니 봐 자연도 많이 보인도잖아요. 다 매발 다 잡으리. 근데 인도 아니 송어치르도 주야 말레스. 송어치르도 주버도 능게 열데 나와도 주야 말레스. 치든가. 근데 치든가에 다음에 시행인 거예요. 다 치료 가인도 전에 다 치료 캐용도 다 안 수로로 소비 쉬어들이 여러 번다. 녀미도 능도 가. 자, 딜레인도서는 다 녀미도 나 수저 쉬어들이 가르스름나 런진 셰바티 때문에 바샤사도 좀 나래 마도 거라 치료 단도 주버지 말이스. 어제네 다 도세네 송지 니지 동에 다음에 치료다면 시행인 거예요.
And then when read the lines 2 and 3, which reads, utterly discarding all objects and subjects, such as aggregates, elements, and sense fields. Here, Nagarjuna is first referring to the philosophical views of the first two classical Buddhist schools, Vaibhashika and Sautrantika. Both of these non-Mahayana classical Indian schools, Buddhist schools, accept the Buddha's teaching on no self and reject the notion of Atman, that is unitary, unchanging, and independent as postulated before. And on top of that, they also reject the notion of any kind of self that is the owner of our body and mind. You know, in our naive perception of self, we have a feeling that over and above our physical and mental processes, there is someone or something called me that somehow owns this, to whom these physical and mental processes belong, that which is somehow independent of these bases. So this kind of a notion of self is also rejected. So according to these two schools, the Buddha's teaching on no self is understood in terms of the absence of a self-sufficient and independent self. So, however, these two schools do accept that when it comes to the basis of the notion of self, which are the physical and mental processes, these are unlike the self. They possess real existence. Whether it is physical or mental processes, they possess real existence. And these real existence can be grounded in understanding their deeper reality. So, for example, in the case of now here, we're primarily talking about mental processes and physical phenomena, because these are the two domains that have direct bearing on our experience of happiness and suffering. When we talk about happiness and suffering, which is our main concern as sentient beings, we are talking about subjective experiences, which are mental and psychological processes, and these which are seen as the ultimate constituents of matter, which then through greater aggregation give rise to the macroscopic level of physical world that we experience. And similarly, when it comes to consciousness, the realm, they understand the existence of consciousness in terms of their ultimate constituents as being indivisible units of cognition, kind of moments of cognition, which through aggregation creates this continuum that we experience as conscious experience. So, and this is how Vaibhashika and Sautrantika, the two classical Indian schools out of the four, the non-Mahayana schools, account for our reality. Of course, this understanding of reality is then rejected and critiqued by the Mahayana schools, the first of which is the consciousness-only school, which is Vijnana Matra, or mind-only. And according to the mind-only school, they take issue with the notion that the physical reality is constituted or made up by indivisible elements, elementary particles. So according to mind-only school, the argument is that no matter how minute you take this dissection of matter to any level, so long as it remains matter, material, it must have some notion of parts, because without any sense of directional location, the whole notion of matter breaks down. So therefore, if you analyze in this way, the notion of indivisible elementary particle just does not, becomes untenable. Therefore, they reject this attempt to understand the nature of reality in this reductive manner and building up from this indivisible elementary particle. So therefore, Chittamatra, the mind-only school, rejects even the physical reality that we experience. Then the question arises, now, given that we do experience the physical world, we see flowers, we see vases, and so on, then, how can we, what are they made of? And the mind-only school's understanding is that these are, in fact, extensions of our own perception, which results from habitual propensities that we create in our mind, which then appear as a projection out there, as if there is an external physical reality. So in this way, the mind-only school critiqued the view of reality of Vaibhashika and Sautrantika.
Tadi 풍국함도 지지기 수어 방법스럽네 루트하고도 수어 방법 직시 다드네 짐바 다 덴주식도와 짐바런시 주부터 시행하러 다다 짐바랑은 주지 자 다디 우마베 중국을 알려는데 수어 that temper member Nanshi, Zimbayan temper member is. Sem Zamba Kyu Lula, any Chidun Kanaya, Zimbat Dindu Debe into Zane, any Zimbe Chardobe, Dawad Tunge, Choa Didu Settler, the Chata Guaya Tashi Kartua says. Young Soroti. Such a into Zane, Zimbat Dindu Gurgiorta, Sumzi Nigalo. Just Chella Dame Yamni, Ransom Sena Makiba, Suzanne, Zimba Nan Sheba Deang, any Chashel Dene, Chashel Dene, that to the is. Jenny, other Sheba Deang, Damanine, any Damanine Makiba, Moniki Makiba, Rawang Matua, that is Shayari. The Umabin of Sherry. As a son of my Jeb, Domini Racinos. Other dig Shijing Dana, so on and Shingi, Chetamje, Moni to be Donry. Danganzu call a quayak, that's all of the not into the Zimbatigan, two. Not tempers, tell a jig them in Daro. Jig Chigi done the consultants in consultancy, Nane, Kansa Shan, temperature and Zimbazon Zebe, then Zimbata, Rani, into the Zimbani Vanane, Canada and Ngao Chase, not take into the Zibatella, jig the Sudwa. Jibishi Pungusawa Mine, Ngao Yam to Zimbe, Tawa Idusane, cheaper, jigsaw the Tawas, Shigdua. That day, Daniel Junior Sumber Nanga, Zaur the Digan, Muripu Tango Digan Lake, Kazakhstan City. That Kansa Papa to sound down into Zane, Zaya Kansa, the Shirti, Sheva Gulatin, Dawa into Zane, Sheva Dami Dalapayati, Sheva Korangi, Korangi Ranshin, Dandon Taylor, that sometime the Zaur to Yari. That is Zong Ag Shune. Jiso Dendo Samda Yunguri, Zibutendo Samda Yunguri, Zozo de Zibutendo Gang Samdaya. Dinang Zene, Shiva Tara Chen, Shiva Tamu, Gangi Dunis, Danapaya, Zosundua, Soundvina. Benanda Gobuluduki, Sagi To, and the Ariande, Luduk Zeshev, Jimen Jeva, Judu Nalia, Simchi Danapaya, Zosha Sundua, Sandin Cheche. Just charging the Zaujen Golini, Zo Simchi Danapaya, Zo Shaggy. So the name in the Zane, Sibet Zao 70 chapters in Sungyanga. So the name is Sibet Zao Chang, 7 quarter. Daniel did it. Nanzu Didu Chevop, Didu Nyopo, Darche. Da said Papa some Dabina, Shiva Gillitan and Dabin. The name is Zane, Shiva Koran, Dandon Day, Shiva Koran, Riksha Sound that is Zochakua. So the name is Zane today. Ransom Surname, Rang Sims in the Sims of a Gahuara, Dakanda, sending Tony Dalapoyati, not only send the Sugiara or the Tisonsha, Ransom Surname, Mayeva, Dominic knows.
Then we read the remaining lines from the Root Tantra, which reads, due to sameness of selflessness of all phenomena, one's mind is primordially unborn. It is the nature of emptiness. So here, Nagarjuna is presenting the final view, which is according to the Madhyamaka, a middle way school, where they reject the perspective of the mind-only school, because mind-only school, through their analysis, although rejected the intrinsic existence of external world of matter, but they accept that the internal world of subjective experience or consciousness possess real existence, has some kind of independent intrinsic existence. So what Nagarjuna is saying is that just as the external world of matter becomes unsustainable, untenable, when you subject it to analysis and seek for their ultimate constitutive elements and ground its reality in that way, in the same manner, if you take consciousness or mind again and we apply the same analysis, we will not be able to find kind of, a real existence or intrinsic existence of even consciousness as well. So therefore, and furthermore, one problem with kind of, grounding the notion of consciousness in some kind of intrinsic existence is that, then there is no a real antidote to deal with attachment related to one's own experience. Through rejecting the reality of the external world, one may be able to prevent attachment towards external objects, but if you kind of reify your internal experience, then there is no antidote to counter the attachment and grasping that might arise with respect to the internal world of experience. Therefore, Nagarjuna's teaching presents a negation of not just the independent existence of true existence of external world of matter, but also the internal world of experience as well. So in this way, the teaching of emptiness is presented right across the entire spectrum of reality. And in fact, the teaching of emptiness across the entire spectrum of reality is the main subject matter of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, these teachings. And all of this points out that the root of our unenlightened existence, samsara, is really this grasping at true existence of all phenomena, and particularly a true existence of one's own self, on the basis of this innate notion of I am, me. And so therefore, in the Buddhist text, we speak of grasping at the true existence of the person and grasping at true existence of phenomena. And between these two, the grasping at true existence of the person is more fundamental cause of our samsaric existence, and particularly here, not just grasping at some other person, but rather grasping at the true existence of your own sense of me, I. And this is referred to as the egoistic grasping, grasping at one's own sense of I. And in fact, this is the first link in the chain of 12 links of dependent origination, where we identify ignorance, fundamental ignorance, to be the first link in that chain. And so, therefore, it becomes very important for the spiritual aspirant to understand the emptiness of the person. And in this course, what becomes important is to also have understanding of emptiness of the consciousness itself. Because when we talk about the notion of sense of self or person, the person or self is designated on the basis of physical and mental aggregates, the processes, and within this, it is really the mental continuum which serves as the primary basis for our notion of self and person. Therefore, understanding the nature of consciousness becomes very crucial. And particularly if you look at the highest yoga tantric teachings, these teachings really emphasize meditation on the emptiness of mind, because emptiness of mind, understanding the nature of mind, becomes crucial for understanding emptiness. And in the Vajrayana teachings, there is a recognition of different levels of subtlety of consciousness, the grosser level, subtle level, extremely subtle levels of consciousness. And when one meditates upon the nature of mind, it is done so in terms of invoking a subtle level of consciousness and meditating upon its emptiness. For example, in Aryadeva, who was the disciple of Nagarjuna, in his commentary on Nagarjuna's 5 stages, called the Compendium of Training or Compendium of Deeds, there Aryadeva presents the teaching on emptiness primarily on the basis of meditation on the emptiness of mind, the nature of mind. This is because mind is the basis of the notion of self, and self is the subject that experiences the results of karma. It is the self that is the agent of an action. And therefore, in order to truly negate grasping at this self, one also needs to negate the grasping at the consciousness, which is the basis of that notion of self and person.
Sanje Jumden Namdang, Chanju Saba Chobu Tedam Ki, Sheso Digi, Kuzu Chanju Sem Pomia, Tiswim.
So then the text reads, after that, just as the blessed Buddhas and the great Bodhisattvas have generated the mind of great awakening and so on, so from that point onwards, then Nagarjuna presents the conventional Bodhicitta, the meditation on the conventional awakening mind.
이게 최저다 좀바 담자도 송차래 제라 셜로가 니베 제다 셜로가 니베들이 셜로가 니베들라 뒤도봐 상제남지 창주심 다도 풍소 능력이 똑바르게 멋지바 신 송야디 상제남지 아니 털도 공부 단담 창주 생기 유동번이데 아니 다당 풍소 넘리기 똑바르기 뭐지 봐서야 되기 모두에 다도 따에 똑바 테마 되니기 가서 그게 풍소 된주도 준비 된되게 똑바 되네 넘리기 에네 난 집어 된주도 똑바 되는 게 뭐지 봐 하나 송진기 최 탐제 에네 정신이 동에 동반이 돼 아니 산제남기 산제도 신주선반 남기 말했다 산제남기 장주선 가서 우리 그게 터두디 아니 저 탐제는 시도는 동인대수 시기가 해소입니다. 이슈대 쇼로가 숨버되기 닝지 렘베 semjini 배배 공부를 차와인스 된대게 돈이 떡별로 대장식 단어를 주면 차려야 말이 돈이 무슨도 떡배 돈이는 니난 너베 돈이 무슨도 떡배 믿어 예시지 차샤나야 대장기 단어 주면 차려야 말이 단담 장주 좀 차봐라 돈이 무슨도 떡별로 되니 탑 장주 좀 있으면 좋고요. 아니 단어 장주 좀 차려야 된대 뭐 이르사네 닝지 렘베 semjini 배배 공부를 차와인스 투지 등이 산계기 장주심도 따고 또 대대를 이 장주심 단도 장주심 대 아니 가서 냠신자리 소다.
So then when Nagarjuna in his own words comments on the Buddha's teaching on awakening mind in the stanza 1, he makes the salutation to the Buddha, and then in stanza 2 he actually makes the presentation, and here it reads, the Buddhas maintain the awakening mind to be not obscured by such conceptions as self, aggregates, consciousness, and so on. It is always characterized by emptiness. So here what Nagarjuna is presenting is that the awakening mind, which is here the ultimate awakening mind, which is a direct realization of emptiness, is such that it is devoid of any conceptions of notion of self. Here he is negating the non-Buddhist notion of Atman. And then when he talks about conceptions of aggregates, here he is negating the Buddhist schools such as Vaibhashika and Sotrantika, who present the notion of the real existence of aggregates. And the notion, when he says that it is devoid of the conception of consciousness, here he is negating the position of the mind-only school, and then says that the true nature of this bodhicitta is really emptiness. And then, however, this realization of emptiness alone does not become ultimate awakening mind, does not become bodhicitta. Therefore, he writes in the next stanza, which is stanza 3, he says that it is with the mind moistened by compassion that you must cultivate the awakening mind with effort. So the point being made here is that the ultimate awakening mind is a direct realization of emptiness, which is complemented or reinforced by bodhicitta, the awakening, altruistic awakening mind. So therefore he writes, the Buddhas who embody great compassion constantly develop this awakening mind.
Oh yeah. That dine shologa shivanema mudibun dewa kagodari.
So then from stanza 4 onwards, Nagarjuna is presenting the critique of the non-Buddhist views.
That 대양 말하는 로 현실이야. 아주 로를 쉬어도 와. 하나 로 개베 그도기 풍부디 그게 중집에 걸이야. 뒤에 삼바치 정민도 와. 그깔래깔래 풍부야. 개치 친데지. 아주 로를 쉬어도 와. 다른 신기 변화 다대 지금 다 냠용 싸대 봐. 지금 로중 제시베 시바디 중집에 걸네 여삼바지에 배지 정민도 와. 그 루스민 이브디 도슨 요두기 되지. 아주 로를 쉬어야 와. 다이네 나 슬자네 나 깨베 그도네 전에 나 찍을지 로를 쉬어도 와. 자상가 루스민 이브디 두메랑 신속도 무슨 요원도 돼야지. 나 슬도 찍을 타만에 마 예대로 로를 쉬어도 와. 뒤찍체. 니네 루스민 이슬도 나한테 롱자자. 나서야지 루스민이 더기를 송에 롱접어보 저 로를 쉬어도 와. 자상가 저도 롱접어보티 아니 즉 잔남 지금 방대비 아니 롱자자라 파 땡신 거 말이지. 추담 봐도. 저 드리인도 롱저로 쉬어도 와. 저 드리인도 전에다 아니 데이터를 지금 겨운 것이 정해진데 연구협에 있는 자네 루스민 이부터 가가리다 륜디 상금의 류다 센디 류베 가가입니다 스웨덴의 신세라고 저다 셰바슬럽네 류들을 땜베 셰바 차이는 자네 배질 가가르시 통되도 근데 네이버 있는 자네 셰바 참면 남샤지 마샤나 가고도 와 저 네이버 있는 자네 다 nga마는 들어오네 니네 침을롱에 그 따지 요고 그래서 다 풍불 때만 매딩에 풍불에 된 셰베 따지 고도 무슨 두지 되거인 거야. 다르신 맞이 예배 두지디 배는 내 미기 숙통인데 자네 미기 통수 삼아서 로를 미천바 로를 미샤와 로리야 내 통삼아서 로를 셔도 믹소디디 통시 고럽시 통경 뭐한테 마셔야 돼 통기 들지 아주 로를 해지 셔도 어다 두지디 이게 통하네 풍불에 된 셰베 다 요하서 와대.
So if you kind of think more deeply about the basis of the non-Buddhist views about the notion of self, in fact, we can relate to our own personal experience when we examine the way in which we, in our naive kind of understanding, the way in which we perceive our own existence as individuals and as self, we know that if we think about our own continued existence with relation to body, we intuitively or have a notion that body ages. For example, if you are already grown up or a certain age in your point in your life, you don't have the feeling that this body is the same body that I had when I was a kid. So you do kind of naturally accept the aging process of your body. Similarly, with relation to the mind, if you think about the current state of your mind, which has already benefited from long experience of going through formal education and so on, again here, we don't feel that this the mature mind that I have is the same mind that I had when I was a kid. So with relation to body and mind, we have a sense that it is continuous, it is multiple and so on. So however, when we relate to our own notion of self, it seems to be quite different. When we think about ourselves, we immediately, for example, if we try to recall our experience from a very early childhood, you say, when I was at that time. So we use the same term I and extend it across this span of time and assume as if there is this one individual that passed through this temporal passage. So unlike body and mind, when it comes to the notion of self, we have this notion of a unity. We feel there is only one thing. So therefore, we can understand why philosophers would attribute this oneness or unity to the characteristic of self. Similarly, when we observe our body and mind, we can feel that this body is mine, and this, I have this thought and emotions and so on. So we feel as if, over and above our body and mental processes, there is someone or something called me or self that is the owner of, or that is the bearer of these experiences, that is the owner that somehow to whom these kind of processes belong to. And so we feel that since this self or the person is the owner or controller of these processes depend upon the self, but not vice versa. The self is somehow independent of this. So in this in this way, we can see that the philosophical idea of self as a unitary, unchanging, and independent can be how these kind of philosophical views arises. Similarly, these non-Buddhist schools argue that there must be something called self, because when you see something with your eyes, instinctively you do not feel that my eyes sees this thing, but rather instinctively the thought arises, I see this thing. So therefore, we have a sense that somehow our senses are like doors or avenues through which we experience the world. And there is something called self that, engages with the world through these doors, which are the senses. So it's for these kind of reasons, non-Buddhist classical Indian schools postulate a notion of an eternal, independent self.
Sholoka Shibadigi, Mudi Jenja Kangdawa, Dada Ribian Namjana, Punang Gunji Nanam, Kanshin, Niemain, the Shasama Sumche. The issue de Sholoka Gubadigi, Kadding Murni, Kaddi that the Kanshi pageant, Dechasu, Kanshi, Murni, Damindi, Murnam Datu, Gejishir, Kanshi Meda, Mobola, Chabaponi Kawame, Sadigi. Da Dindegi, any. Takshi Rama Daji, any Shabayina, Dadi, Juamaveri, any Pungu, Jua, the Tene, Dal and Jua, of the Shako, Tanyato. Nashinutula, Nakavutula, Nan Navakabas, Shedua. That dish is an Nate Pungula. Tene, you have a self shadow. Pungu Turgula Dene, not Turgushaya. Pungu Ganshuna Dene, not Ganshaya. A Pungu Demaditone, not Demadishaya. But Nasiadi, Pungu tension by Yangawa Shibayina, Lu nowadays, not now, and Tanya Shashima, the shadow. So the river is a young answer, not Sameton, sometime in Nasiadi. Pungu Lucy you shoes dead which is severed. So the day is an Sanje Carson was down. Nasia de Pungule Pungula Dene, Shares, Pungula Dene, that was. She's a son Sasson and she got a Pungula Dene, my showers. The day in the Pungula Demege, Maranja, Yamaris. Nga Midawaji Shai, Pung Nakana Danish, Dase, Pungudi, Midawari, tell it in a tagbe, Nadia, Midawari, Dindre in the Dugziran, dark kegbe, any Chevapo Kea Yomaris, Midaware, Dagbe Chevapo Kebare Mado, Midaware, and she Chevapo Kea Yomaris, not Shudi. Kanjin Muni, Dam Mindi, Muno Datu Gishi, Kanjin Midam Mobola, Chevapo Yakaba, long Java, long Jaja, Pungso, Didi, Shadow rays. Just one.
So, as mentioned earlier, from verse 4, Nagarjuna is critiquing the non-Buddhist school's view of self. And then in verse 9, we read, if it were an entity, it would not be permanent, for entities are always momentary. And with respect to impermanent entities, agency has not been negated. So what Nagarjuna is stating here in the concluding verse in this particular section is that, if, as non-Buddhist schools postulate, self is eternal, unchanging, and independent, then how can, the relationship between this self, which is supposedly unchanging, and the aggregates, the physical and the mental elements, which are constantly changing, how can the relationship between the two be accounted for? So Nagarjuna argues that just as the body and mind goes through a process of change, therefore self, or the notion of person that is designated upon the body and mind, too must undergo change. And in fact, according to Nagarjuna, he argues that if we carefully examine the way in which the notion of self operates in us, there is a recognition of this. For example, when we talk about, when I was young, when I was old, when I was sick, and when I was happy, and so on, unhappy. So here, what is happening is that the attributes of the physical and mental states, whether they belong to, whether they were young or old or sick or well, all of these attributes are also attributed, becomes attributes of the person, the self that is being designated. So therefore, Nagarjuna explains that if the self, on the other hand, is completely independent, then how can this independent self interact with the physical and mental processes that together make up the existence of this individual? So therefore, what the Buddhist teaching explains is that the reality of self, the existence of self and person, can only be understood in terms of something that is contingent, something that is dependent upon the physical and mental aggregates, mental processes. Therefore, just as the physical and the mental aggregates are impermanent, the self or the person that is designated upon these processes too are impermanent. And then Nagarjuna explains that, however, having rejected this eternal self that is independent, that does not, by implication, also negate the existence of the person, existence of some kind of agency. So that's why he writes that, and with respect to impermanent entities, agency has not been negated. So he's saying that although self as an agent that is independent has been negated, one can still maintain the notion of an agency or a person that is impermanent.
다소 제 직된디 다 쇼로가 주버시 쇼로가 주버는마 뜻이라면 다 야마레스 다 소소도 되게 다다 가사다 셰리게도 가사 주고 소다 강사사 든디디 얘네 풍불이 된 셈배 든디지 야마레스 다소 제 풍복함도 지 송지로 인정만 주스 풍급 계시기 최 랑생이 주고 샤샤바 대 뭐다 태양 뭐 십두잖아 아니 로이 점바티 리베 내용으로스 제니다 담아대니인데 바디 까용 거야래 제니다 풍속의 최상물로 아니 네更你超给大多样送你我等着呢超去出本的写作送你哎所说的确定的参谋老呢开始我会怎么都送给要这事情但是想的第一下现在到第一第想的小老个我的对小老个你是小老个你是这个你说，说个你这个的 Sundan Zimbe Moye, Namshi Nawa Kayamba, Namshi Lene Tadevar, Shiru Turning Gayam Mix. Da Sunzingi Soso Shayung Yare, Sun Zimba Tadevar, Lord Shayung Yare, Yahu Sound Tabaina, Sun Shiru Turn to Mojuvari, that is of that, Shebe, Dani to Yare, Sun the Sheba, that had a dawn, Jenny. 다 넘지게 다와 디셴니 담아디니기 가서를 그게 직송어 된주샤샤 다 송어 참이 싸네 송어 두대버디 가용 거야 되가버다.
So then from verse 10 we read, this world devoid of self and so on is utterly vanquished by the notions of aggregates, elements, and the sense fields, and that of object and subject. So here, self and so on includes all the characteristics that are generally used to, sort of the terms that are used to refer to the individual or the person. So the person, the individual, the being, and so on. And so Nagarjuna, having negated the notion of self and Atman, then goes on to negate the views of the Buddhist schools, as explained before. Here, particularly the real existence of aggregates, elements, and so on. So this section of the text goes on up to verse 22.
21.
Now, so in the version. In the version that has been printed here, there is one extra stanza, which is stanza number 16. So when His Holiness says 21, ours is 22. So
under day you deve Jurugudi, Sudu Wanshi came in the 10 Wambulade, do you say so? Sholo Chiche.
He counted it. Sudu Leshian Wambo Mess. Sudu Leshian Wambo Me, Chebu Wambo Shindume, Kebabo the Kebata. Yanda Keba Rigmais. Taramsalan and Ladola Parjabus did not.
Shan cousin Eddie, cousin the inviting the Devra. Mitin Javati. Did Chilamado, Chilamado Champagne, did Alano Dam. Did Tengurana, Sandisha.
The version that His Holiness is using is from the Tengur and Derke edition, and when he compared it against Smriti Janakriti's commentary of this text, it seems to go really well with the root text in Tengur. So the version one here has an extra stanza. So in verse 22 of our version, it reads, in terms of objects and subjects, whatever appears to the consciousness apart from cognitions themselves, no external object exists anywhere. So what Nagarjuna is presenting the critique of the view of reality of classical Indian Buddhist schools, the realist schools, Vaibhashika and Sautrantika, from the point of view of the mind-only school. And then, therefore, he writes that apart from the cognitions themselves, no external objects exist anywhere.
Yeah. That Jenny, that shall she. Some Shologan is she, Dadons about Dogaja, Pumbu comes or Dabayin she. Dugji round da Pumbula tension by Yamari, Das at the Pumbula Dene Shapatamre, Susan da Pungso Chedi, Rangsan to she, Shisha, Songship she. So Dadons about Dogaja Pumbu comes or Dabayin, this one. Samson Bolonen, Gazin the Tang Bunks. That dinner to the coma, Samsabeta, Tumdalia, Shune, Samsabet to the Tone, the little Zibatin to the cake, Zibatin to Mari, Zibatin to Mari, Zibatin to Mari, the Swatin to the car, cake, car. So, number ship of Mawala, then you sang it, number ship of Mawala, not only the Samson to Seni. That did Hamjalo, 70 tiny race, that's Dinama Seni, and 다 섬섬에 되버디 송기야래 다 조조 섬 된주 다 된주 샤용이 있잖아요 다 섬섬에 슝드스 나로라 배나 초랑도 최다가 슝드스 참매슝 소차대야래 섬섬에 릉리디 조용도가 개척부진이 가르스는 셰자 주버디 제지 타네 제지를 하래 제지디 참여 주야디 릉리 타네 주야지 손도가 사실은 인도산에 참여나서 셰인도산에 신리의 릉리사 니체니 디관에다 송도가 다 드리메 인도산에 아다시 남시 조송네 아니 남시 주지디 참아디 셰인도 릉리 셰 다 도스도야래 제니 야디슬터
So then in verse 25 we read that to overcome grasping at selfhood, the Buddha taught aggregates, elements and so on, and by abiding in the state of mind only, the beings of great fortune even renounced that teaching. So what is being presented here is a progressive development of the view, so that you, in the first stage, you reject the non-Buddhist notion of selfhood, and then, accept the reality of aggregates and so on, and then from the perspective of the mind-only teachings, that you negate even the real existence of these aggregates as well. And then from verse 26 we read, for those who propound consciousness only, this manifold world is established as mind. What might be the nature of that consciousness? I shall now explain this very point. So, from this point onwards, Nagarjuna is presenting the mind-only school's understanding of the nature of reality. So, in mind-only school, having rejected the real existence of external world of matter, they accept the true existence of consciousness, and therefore, in this particular school, understanding the reality of the consciousness becomes very crucial, and it is in this particular school many great masters of the Buddhist epistemological tradition, such as Dignaga and Dharmakirti, belong to. And if you look at Dignaga and Dharmakirti's writing, the whole epistemological system is built upon making a distinction between perceptions of the external world versus a perception or self-cognizing awareness. And so since the reality of the external world or the validity of our perception is grounded in the validity of the perceptions themselves, the validity of the perceptions are then grounded in a quality that is attributed to these perceptions, which is a self-cognizing faculty. And in this way, the reality of consciousness or mind is established in this school.
Yeah. So that umabeda for sensible paka in the Zane, that dinama under the Bena Nisturuti. The datum is sensible to be temple concept, the Chivan of the Japan Panachi, Tinimin, do the such order, do the longer the machine, do the such way and long day, Kasurpige Hasachi, simulation with Chebobo. Goya and the same jump somebody said, the nigger de Luyari, that longer ship and get sick already. Children now you mean the Satin or the niggy that Dodden Yard, that Chirukash of the day. The Zut had the Gabawang song is to be temper concept, the Chivan and the Japan Panachi, Tinimin, Senny. Do Penando to conjure the Vinala, any Shawan, Dendrusumduha. Cousin and the Gisha that this average story. Yandamo in Gundo, Uti Chikti, Jabadinalo, Ying Zesha, Jabadinaloria, Casa Yandamo in Bishawa, Young Casota, Matabi Shawan share. 양다 머인 사데 마다베 샹와데 샤네 양다 머인 마다베 샹와 군도디 예세 지자네 예 샤들이야 잉잉기 제베나리야 런신셔버는 지금 한번 오세요 예 셔버디 타녀도 예버정 그저 말해서 런신 예버리 샤네 잉잉기 제베나 송도와 다 세우시도와 다자도와 자자가 양다 머인 군도요 달래니부 예마이 동반이는 들어요. 달라야는 대여도 신다 송샤 되게 다 증지 바지라고 좀 돈요. 다 두준 거라르샤. 단단 인부디 마다베 상황이 랑신이 조인 송도와 시바랑신이 조시. 저 지장가 디콩리아 아니 룽그 주지도 거네. 다 도저히 룽도 저 거네 연구하르디 우마베 될바다 랭견인데 좀더 내가 송여 말했으면 됐지. 좀더 내가 송여데 이내데 거배왕 송레스. that is 송여.
So then in stanza 27, we read, all of this is but one's mind. That which was stated by the able one is to elevate the fear of the childish. It is not a statement of final truth. So here Nagarjuna is critiquing the mind-only school's view. And so of course in the Buddha's sutras, such as the 10 Levels Sutra Dashabhumika, although which has different interpretation, and also in Langa Avatara, and Descent to Langa Sutra, there are statements which explicitly reject the reality of the external world and establishes the truth of mind only. So similarly, if you look at Vasubandhu's commentary on differentiation of the middle and the extremes, which is in Maitriya's text, there is a particular stanza where Vasubandhu, when he explains, comments upon this, he explicitly states that the statement which says that the thought processes that are deluded, distorted, do exist, and he says that it's not merely a matter of existence, but also here the notion of existence is intrinsic existence. So the point is that in Vasubandhu's writing, it is very clearly stated that according to mind-only school, consciousness and the cognitions and the mental processes do possess real intrinsic existence. And so in Nagarjuna and Madhyamaka, when they critique the mind-only school, they do not do so by saying that the Buddha never taught the mind-only. The critique is, yes, the Buddha taught this teaching in the various sutras, such as also in the Samdhinirmochana Sutra, which is the sutra unraveling the intention of the Buddha, where the teaching on emptiness is explained in terms of contextualizing different meanings of emptiness. So the Nagarjuna says that it's not that Buddha did not teach mind only, but he's saying that these teachings that the Buddha gave do not represent the final truth. They were taught for a specific purpose. Therefore, he writes, it is to elevate the fear of the childish, and it is not a statement of final truth.
Teaching Gaia Daniel, Churla Dami, Yabani, 70 Derman, 70 Derman, Magedi, Sanjay and Dutusums. Nang Ziba Sendian, Damanine, Rashi Modures and Sonyares.
So then in stanza 29, Nagarjuna writes that the Buddha has taught that even the mind too is emptiness. So therefore he writes, to those who delight in the great vehicle, the Buddha taught in brief, selfless in perfect equanimity, and that the mind is primordially unborn.
That Rama Pashi Timra, Kunshi. That Lungajan Samzabe, Kansag, Senshi Shai in the Sane, Kunshinam Shai Shigger, Shiva Lungadan Shang. Kandachi, Semi Negamongu Yeva in the Sane, the Guanyum, Semi Negu in the Yeva in the Zinegu in the Kansa, Mabachado, some Kora, Yi Shibati Kansala Shavina, Kansa Senshi Shavina. So the day in the Zaneta, Negu Kaduine, Tako Yodaruchi, Kunshinam Shiva says, Shang. So the Tingoya Sunsha, Pejin City. That Dana Shingi, 렁리디 송용거야래 다 땡과야 송샤 다 쇼데 렁루기 한데 딘다 숨주 소주고 숨주 말에 숨주 쏠제버들이셔 숨주 쏠제버디 다 백숨 쏘고디 숨주 쏘고디 셰베 시저 또버디 시저 매버 셰바메 대단하니 릭지당 릭지 매지 면도스 다 어디기 단단님부터 뒤송이었으래 자제 레슨데 요래스 자제 레슨 때에 관해 요래스 다가는 신기 아니 세좀 줘야 돼 아니 샤자라 때네 제지 참아라 때네 샤자 편주 때는 저리스 다디 우무주고디 다시 주거라는데 식세는 다시 세우시 송도가 어다 들이셔 편주 때는 저버지 셰디산에 샤자의 제지사디 편주 때는 저리스 저는 어다 렁루기 뒤송이 하래 샤자 제지 참 샤자 두지 참아체 참아 두지 렁리게 셰모 참아 샤자라 때는 참아 때는 샤자 두야 셰
Then from stanza 30, Nagarjuna is critiquing a principal tenet of the mind-only school, which is the notion of alaya, the foundational consciousness. And the reason for postulating this notion of alaya or foundational consciousness is to really search for the true identity of the person. And since there are many mindless states of existence, such as when one is fainting and when one is in deep cessation and so on, the mind-only school maintains that there must be an eighth consciousness which retains its continuity, and therefore, because if we take the continuum of consciousness to be the basis of the personal existence, then in states of unconsciousness, when there are no conscious experience, then there will be no person. The continuity of the person will be broken. So this is the reason why mind-only school postulates the notion of alaya, foundational consciousness. So this notion is being negated by Nagarjuna. Similarly, the notion of self-cognizing awareness, which is this perceptive attribute of consciousness, this is also negated. Then finally in stanza 39, Nagarjuna writes, the cognizer perceives the cognizable. Without the cognizable, there is no cognition. Therefore, why do you not admit that neither object nor subject exist at all? So what Nagarjuna is stating here is that when we have notions such as the object and subject, cognizer and the cognized object, these are concepts that are that arises on the basis of mutual relationship. It is not the case that the perception verifies the object, and the perception itself is verified by a third kind of factor, which is the self-cognizing awareness. Therefore, Nagarjuna is saying that just as in the case of agency, act, and the object of action, all these three elements of an action are mutually dependent and mutually defined. In the same manner, cognition and the cognized object are mutually defined. One cannot define one without the other. So through mutual dependence, one can maintain these notions. So this is what Nagarjuna is presenting here in stanza 39. And this notion of mutual dependence is very clearly presented in Chandrakirti's commentary on Mula Madhyamaka Karika, which is the clear words.
동리 런신 두주에 강시 처벌 마와 민스 되는 딱반이도야 의심해 보면 없어야 되기 다 동반이 셔셔버 되기 딱저게 탄이 쓰기 하래스 동리 런신 두주에 써야 되기 최전의 주주디 되는 주버레샤스 되는 주버 인상 런신이 동아래 러브윤도 런신이 동안데 최전의 런신도 주대 런신도 셔야 되고 봐 선 시직 여연이 런시 동거를 쓰게 하면 또 가야 매번 런시 동거를 쓰고 말아. 저들이 인도 체다를 통해 말이지. 때는 매스고 말이지. 때는 매버지는 시지기 땡기 개주 춘이 슬럽신 말아. 다음에 때미라고. 다음에 동리 런시 두 주에 건시 차벌 마음이지. 동시 시전 요식도. 동번이 단당 어머니 자시로 나서는 시리 땡진 저번 중앙가 되는 동번이도 셰신 땡진 저번 중앙 강인바 태 아니 런시 동배 다래 신 수윤도 그 지기 예당 그 샤나 라는 예배 인상 샤나 라마레베 런신지 동래 신 수윤도 그 동배 거와 야우차베는 예배지 거이고도 저들이 이미 이전에 거시 차벌 마음이 되는 딱반이도야 거시마 보면 이노스 다 선잠배东西向往跟大的东北东里永住的将你向往的永住你不的定住些是吧是吧但人这么样吧东北你的对呢下过来的人没就啥呢东北你送过多啊是的人没就啥呢看到呢告诉人这一边呢东你定住要嘛的刚才人是东北印度山，东北县印度山呢，当不了嘛呀，嘛嘞，东北你定住都对吧？嘛嘞，定住印度印度山呢，原来谈你的差嘞，实际送一个嘞。
Then in stanza 58, which is on page 10, we read, when one speaks of emptiness as the nature of phenomena, one in no sense propounds nihilism. So the point Nagarjuna is making here is that the teaching on emptiness presents all phenomena to be empty because they are dependent, because they are devoid of independent nature. So therefore, emptiness is presented as the true nature of things. And because they are true nature of things, and there are phenomena whose true nature we can talk about. So therefore, the teaching on emptiness does not constitute a form of nihilism, because here we are talking about emptiness as being the ultimate nature of things. And this is, of course, presented very clearly in Nagarjuna's fundamental wisdom of the middle way, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, where he explains the meaning of emptiness in terms of dependent origination, when he says that that which is dependently originated, that has been taught to be empty. So here he equates the meaning of dependent emptiness with dependent origination. So therefore, since emptiness is the ultimate nature of things, therefore the teaching on emptiness does not constitute a form of nihilism. And similarly, Nagarjuna writes that by the same token, one does not propound eternalism either. So what Nagarjuna is presenting here is that this emptiness, which is the ultimate nature of things, itself is not truly existent. Itself is dependently originated. So unlike the mind-only school, where having rejected the imputed nature, they attribute true existence to emptiness. Whereas in the Nagarjuna's teaching, not only are phenomena empty, but also emptiness of phenomena is also emptiness. Therefore, one speaks of emptiness. And because of this, and there is also no danger of falling into eternalism. So in this way, the teaching on emptiness guards one from both the extremes of absolutism and nihilism.
That issue de malignasm kawaii todu yana juni ji shaso suni den junwe chawan ko minum de so ta umabe any tanyegi any kinji bana diji consideration tanyebe chu consideration and de chi nange tende de chi tende ni so nange ju ji semjengi kichi di denji dewan jo ran shi jikso chi tende so semi pembe shu de de ju de gen sam la denji junwe denji jikso so denga de chig de chan san da chig de le mi de ju and 장제 동거하면 언제나 드리송이야. 다 지금지지 누구도가야. 지금은 내 랑수 체면로야. 진짜 그래서 치든 뭐시비 루스미그台湾 대니는 계긴 저식 런리 뭐주장 차셜 타입에 넘리 마와는 계긴 저식 랑생 뭐주장 댄지 짜에 실sun 캠본나 계긴 저식 야도가 다한테 이게 풍속 취해되면 용구말에 다 우주적대야지 치든 시그널 지금은 누우시네 다 치든 니구도 우시네 치든 니야가 된다리야 아니 참에 시기여 봐 그래서 다 우모바 데 고물루고 투모모이 우메루 다 우메베 시바리야 치든 거금도 와 다 우메베 나는 치든 강에 주여야 돼 이네 때 빼면서 거 야오래 치든 많이 해야 돼 땅든 전에 많이 벌어 땅든 전에 많이 벌디 낭 짐벌에 찍버려스 낭 짐버야 땅든 전에 많이 벌디기 매버 샤워 주는 쉬어 가야 매버 차는 그래서 낭 짐버 땅든 전에 미니 벌디 이네 마다 맞아면 안에 명상기 짐버 샤 차나 치든야 땅든 전에 니야 요말디 마다 맞아면 안에 치든 샤 줘버렸어 그래서 숨진 이부디 타녀도 여념 된다 말 매념 샤소 자상가 치든 뭐시고 루스미그스 딘지소 다 센자베 랑리 그 타네 다지 우주 때문에 샤고야 돼 세면으로 다 샤진 제지가 남샤 디다 개처부스인 숨부여 있잖아요 다디 타네 랑리 죽고요 봐 자상가 랑리 모르죠 차샤 타베 되게 샤들이 참마다 샤자 뜨는 주고 샤용이 있잖아요 랑리 게 샤고도 봐 이네 랑리 간에 샤자 제지가 남샤 뚜루 데모 전 샤토바 인도잖아요 남리 마도 투테마나스 나 우모바 타녀도 랑세 시겐즈 타녀도라고 생이 뭐 죽나 타녀면에 주베 최신 매바라 차용기 아니 땡제 양라 주니 사주데 용구민도 세네다 내가들 레인 거 알아 산다 디견민도 랑세 뭐 죽장 땡제 따스 식성 캠본 계진저 시세네 어디로 손에 저서 되는 오늘도 왔다 안데 디디 고모고모디도 막다 고모고모에 지 견시 통이 견시 세야가 된다라 지 다른 락바직시 직시다 마샤감이 차오르와 와다 띠견천이야 말이지 엄마베다 반단 가서 어디 고물루르고 싶어 투모 모임 봐다 산재장다 나와 잡에 째셔 봐 상당연데 그 주름에 지 차는 거 리베나가 천에 되지 리베나가 천에 되네 당진은 푸는 내 통해지 들으시도 봐 현在主动嘛是大学的大面的쉬우지 잡아서는 또서 맞아요인데요. 다가는 신기 den지 처음에 캠을 돼야지. den지 락박해가 돼 연구. den지 처음에 캠을 되지 연구 양하도. 저 상황이 양호 상황이나 다 되는 거는 전혀 레샤 삼지가 생기 땡네. 즉 저하러 가야지. 그다음에 제가 돈이 더 야말다. 돈이 또도 치면 사실다서. 돈이 더 야말에. 얘네도 서르잖아. 맨로 삼아르지. 다들 내집이 용되게 하래. 사실 리면 있잖아요. 그 더그시다. 저로 순수하네. 직도가 섬나 지금 처음에 맨라지 공도가. 어디를 시작. 사동이사 다 시다. 먼저 가서래. 몸으로 주로서 그 프로페서즈 다 가서 숨을 살게 되면도 봐. 때문에 자네 먼저 일이 처해 나로 쉬우지 너희들 그러셔.
So we read in stanza 59, starting with ignorance and ending with aging, all processes that arise from the 12 links of dependent origination, we accept them to be like a dream and like an illusion. So here Nagarjuna is explaining that while rejecting any notion of true existence in the teaching of emptiness, one can still maintain a robust and coherent notion of reality. And here he explains reality in terms of dependent origination pertaining to the external world, and dependent origination pertaining to the internal world of sentient beings. And of course, the origination of sentient beings is explained in terms of the 12 links of the Buddha's teaching, 12 rings of dependent origination. So here, the key principle that is being invoked is the principle of cause and effects. So on the basis of the law of cause and effects, Doji wrote a text called Songs on the View, Recognizing My Mother's Face, or Recognizing My Mother, in which he wrote the following stanza, which of course
here, mother in the sense
emptiness.
The emptiness.
Yeah.
Emptiness is the ultimate nature of everything. So you see, he refer mother.
So in which he, referring to each of the different views of the Buddhist schools, he wrote the following, although the stanza themselves, my recitation of them may not be the exact words, but in the following he writes that given that kind of a conventional notion of external reality can be maintained, therefore the masters of Vaibhashika and Sautrantika do not need to worry too much, because they're having rejected the notion of independent self. For the Vaibhashikas and Sautrantikas, the two Buddhist schools, it was very important to have a robust notion of the world of existence. So therefore they attribute the reality to elementary particles and so on, as we discussed earlier. So what Chankhya is saying is that since one can have a robust notion of these external world without grounding their reality in the ultimate eternal kind of indivisible constitutive elements, therefore they do not need to worry, these masters do not need to worry. Then talking to the mind-only school masters, he says that although one without accepting the notion of this apperceptive self-cognizing faculty, one can still maintain a coherent notion of subject and object, cognition and the cognized object. Therefore, the mind-only school masters need not worry too much. And then he moves on and says that to those Madhyamaka, middle way philosophers who insist on some notion of intrinsic reality on the conventional level, he says they too need not worry, because despite rejecting any notion of intrinsicness, one can still maintain a coherent understanding of the world of dependent origination. So the masters of the Svatrantika Madhyamaka need not worry. So, so what Chankhya is saying here is that if one truly understands the teachings of Nagarjuna, particularly in the unique way in which it has been read by Indian masters like Buddha Palita and Chandrakirti, then one will have a very deep understanding of the final meaning of emptiness, where not even a trace of grasping is left at any notion of objective intrinsic existence. Yet at the same time, within that view, there is a robust, coherent notion of reality within which cause and effect and all conventions operate. Therefore, so if one really examines carefully, one can really come to recognize that in the teaching of Nagarjuna, there is truly the method and the antidote to counter our innate, deeply ingrained grasping at selfhood, deeply ingrained grasping at real existence. And yet at the same time, one does not slide into a form of nihilism. Rather, one maintains a robust notion of reality. And and at the same time, Nagarjuna's teachings are completely free of any faults, and they can be completely supported by reasoning. So when you think along those lines, of course I'm not claiming that I have realized emptiness, but I can say that I've kind of tasted it, so at least a little bit. So when you dwell deeply on the true meaning of emptiness, and when you begin to have a little taste of it, then clearly when you hear words like emptiness, it conjures and evokes in you a completely different experience. And therefore, so otherwise, one may misunderstand the teachings of the Nagarjuna, because the teachings of Nagarjuna, someone like Nagarjuna, cannot be seen, seen as any kind of academic professor who was developing some kind of speculative views. Rather, Nagarjuna's teaching on emptiness are teachings that have direct relevance to our own experience and our own quest for enlightenment.
Yeah. That is what they do. Did you tune it? Did you tune so in? But don't get this lemon. The Chukju did you somebody? Did you somebody? There is some shivani, Simshi one, Mommy, Tini top, 12 top euros. Someday, did you tune in the Kanda Duni Mishiva, Tata Tabe Demai, Duru Sibe Journey, Mobatata, Corn.
So then I will single out the next two stanzas. Stanza 70, which is on page 12, it reads, "A happy mind, it is tranquil indeed. A tranquil mind is not confused. To have no confusion is to understand the truth. By understanding the truth, one attains freedom." And then later on in stanza 72, we read, "Those who do not understand emptiness are not receptive vehicles for liberation. Such ignorant beings will revolve in the existence prison of 6 classes of beings." So with this, up to this point, that the teaching on the ultimate Bodhicitta or ultimate awakening mind has been presented. So then from stanza 73 onwards, the conventional Bodhicitta or conventional awakening mind is being presented. So this is what I refer to as altruism at the beginning of opening remarks.
Rangda Tsumba, Dan Nangatetu Simjan Sudsuine, Mongbe Shanwan, the Gudibati, Gulu Yudiba, Mongbati, Deru in Bachida, telling you what Tomday Yavashi, Lord Shayon, she Dunga and Jandu law, Dungeli Jumdu law, could lay him with one, the Ashtua. So today in the Sane, change it on a Chagwell, join you, Tasman said.
So then in stanza 73 we read, "When this emptiness, as explained, is thus meditated upon by yogis, no doubt there will arise in them a sentiment attached to others' welfare." So what Nagarjuna is saying here is that once you have deeper understanding of the meaning of emptiness, then you will come to recognize that there is a possibility of purifying the pollutants of the mind. And so once you come to recognize the possibility of purifying the pollutants of the mind, then a genuine aspiration to seek that freedom, which is freedom from the pollutants of the mind, arises in you. And when you recognize that, you will then recognize that in all the other beings who are entrapped in the cycle of existence, the root cause of their cyclic existence is this ignorant mind grasping at self-existence, in inherent existence. And however, this ignorance, which is the root cause of samsara, is a distorted state of mind which can be removed, which can be eliminated, and there exists a powerful antidote to eliminate it. So once you recognize that, then genuine compassion for all beings who are entrapped in cycle of existence because of the ignorance arises in you. That's why Nagarjuna writes that no doubt there will arise in them a sentiment attached to others' welfare.
Jigden Dendro Androy, Dada Minju Debuti, Semjanola Pambadon, Neverland Jones. Semjan Tempe Sanjay, Govan Lami, Ninguna, had a me, Lonjo, Sando Umbu Tawuda. Jigden Gome Dendada, Semjan, Pambazam shaking Madame Dusun, Gayam Mero, such years. Teishan do Semia to read out Suseta, Andaching Andrew, Nalakia the idea, and a Semjan Nevin Debutis. Chenny, da Shana Pambaduna, Rangla, Nego the Tadugi, Digi Tada Dutia. Semjan never chana, Nego the Tadu, that Tadu Maba Pashane, Chadu Inaya, the Mojibo Korang on Dogwatch. Tom Javiandu, Junjugi, Dr. Shenji Tungeta, Yanda Jawar Machana, Sanja need to Mindrujan, Kawana, Dewa, Me, and Taja, Delisha. The Hanchu some lodge John and some lodge down in Terry, young and Quincy, Chanju some get Dashan, then the Dewa and draw out, some sushi Gilu, sent Sunsha to the door. So today in the Monerada, children Namji, Shiruji, Yelache. Some Yao, she down by Ina. Dongni dawa dige chwa chebe dongni dawa del tene chengju sa ji yeba dijik lo shile dongmen deru im chi da tene shan de tene lo chang ne shan le jie xi pang de lo da shen nyam ji guan da jin jin ni gyan de yan de sam da yin de san ne yani shan de tene lo ji le gu do da dini sung du de ni do to lo shong na en da ji ben go chu le Then draw Sushi Gilusatiri. Any Dindisan, Gash Troshindo, Chisin Nanga never, draw Chisin native, this is done in nature and dread to me some shots. That melon give some that genuine. Give it to her. She was a shady. Lolly, do it on that. She was a hilarious.
So we read in stanza 76. The fruits which are desirable or undesirable in the form of fortunate or unfortunate births in the world, they come about from helping the sentient beings or harming them. If by relying upon the sentient beings, the unexcelled state of Buddhahood is brought about, so what is so astonishing about the fact that whatever prosperities there are in the gods and humans, such as those enjoyed by Brahma, Indra and Rudra, and the worldly guardians of the world, there is nothing in this triple world system that is not brought forth by helping others. So, and the text goes on. But what Nagarjuna is explaining here is that in reality, anything that pertains to our experience of happiness, anything that is good in the world, either directly or indirectly, results or consequences of actions and thoughts that are beneficial to others. In contrast, all the consequences of any actions and thoughts that are harmful to others brings about, one's own downfall and all the other undesirable consequences that we see in the world. So, in brief, and then the text goes on to say that even birth in the hell realms and so on, all of these are consequences of engaging in actions that are harmful to other sentient beings. So in brief, what Shantideva presents in his Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where he says that if one does not, exchange self and others and begins to cherish the welfare of other sentient beings, then not only will one not attain Buddhahood, but even in this lifetime, there will be no happiness. So therefore, all the experiences of happiness, whether even in this lifetime, are in one way or another consequences of actions that are beneficial to other sentient beings. So therefore, if one can reflect deeply, one will truly come to appreciate the value of these two teachings, the teaching on emptiness that we spoke about, which pertains to understanding a deeper nature of reality, and then teaching on altruism, which is the Bodhicitta, awakening mind. So when you are able to adopt a path that has a combination of these two practices, then clearly as Shantideva says in his Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, when he says that, therefore, in overcoming any sense of weariness or tiredness, one should ride the horse of Bodhicitta, the awakening mind, and then travel from a place of joy to a place of joy. And what sane person or intelligent person would not take joy in making such a journey? So this is truly powerful, because you can, if you really think deeply as a practicing, as a practitioner, if you are able to really implement these two principles, the principle of understanding the nature of reality and the principle of altruism, then clearly a new chapter opens where your whole journey in life opens to a journey towards happiness, a true joy. Therefore, one can truly relate to the sentiments expressed in Shantideva's text when he says that as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. So you can then relate to that kind of sentiment and truly have a sense of what genuine, deep, tranquil and happy and joyful mind must feel like.
大学的就是求助，你说，可是光白淡白你明白的淡白那着，可是光白淡白那，现在东西几天呢？三代代我团来讲，那么把人如果吃，第二我说第二，第二他们出路上，他他那么就人类当哪那么进步，我说明，全能东北地线呢，来人这个淡白看，第二我说来讲。 天我说为我说没用来讲，买的穷，真的我在地上下，那这个，我那让他这里头去，他老去讲通了，哎呢，我那他是没南州的，是他说他那边的早晚收起来，没南州快些收起来，南州朝的这边没学生印度的，我那他下上去是吧？短途收起来，两多。
So then we read from stanza 86, where Nagarjuna writes, when through practice it becomes firm, he's talking about Bodhicitta, then alarmed by others' suffering, the Bodhisattvas renounce the bliss of concentration and plunge even to the depths of relentless hells. This is indeed amazing, praiseworthy it is. This is the excellent way of the sublime. That they give away their own flesh and wealth is not surprising at all. Those who understand this emptiness of phenomena, yet also conform to the law of karma and its results, that is more amazing than amazing. That is more wondrous than wondrous. So, if one can train one's mind along these lines, on the basis of the teaching on emptiness and altruism as outlined in this text, then clearly one will be able to bring the optimal potential that lies in the human mind and would make the human intelligence most meaningful and would have achieved and served its purpose. And in this way, one will be able to cultivate the greatest amount of courage and also greatest degree of altruism. And once you're able to do those things, then truly the expression making one's human existence meaningful would come to be real.
That is what the Shaloka Jada Shi. Oh, the Jada Shidi, Ningshiruji, Sonamjur, Dungniruji, Chojo, Dada Shandu, Drujandu, Kandun Tada, Yasay, Mobukunji Talandu. 15순도 다쳐 상계 동네 초전도 직전에 받쳐다 슉 어다디
So then we will read from stanza 103, which is on page 17. The single taste of compassion is merit. The taste of emptiness is most excellent. Those who drink the elixir of emptiness to realize self and others' welfare are conquerors' children. Bow to them with your entire being. They are always worthy of honor in the three worlds. These guides of the world reside as representatives of the Buddhas.
Yeah. So those, I think, Buddhist practitioner, as we practice these lines, then we become genuine follower of Buddha, not only follower, but also to be
representatives of the Buddha.
So, let us try to put in implementation, practice.
Implement them in practice.
So, finished.
We would like to invite Susan Dawn. Please make announce about financial issues and words gratitude from the organizing committee.
Wait. Oh, no. Don't do that. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, the Buddhist also the literature or Buddhist tradition says that Toma Tujung Shiro, Tene Samjung Shiro, Tene Gumjung Shiro, Modon Duatiach, Tusresha.
So the Buddhist teaching states that as practicing Buddhist, at the initial stage, we have to cultivate the wisdom through learning, on the basis of learning. And once you have cultivated the learning, then on that basis you have to use critical reflection and contemplation so that you arrive at the second level of understanding derived through reflection. And then finally, we have to cultivate understanding derived from personal meditation practice.
So time is major factor. You don't expect there's some big change within 1 week. Unrealistic. So try. Then months, years, decades, then eventually some change in our mind, particularly in the emotional field. Then you really feel these teachings are really, I think, a powerful weapon to destroy, to eliminate the ultimate sources of our problem, sources of the suffering, of pains. So the more you reduce these negative forces, then the positive forces also gain more strength. As a result, our life becomes meaningful, joyful, and from the Buddhist viewpoint, not only this life, but life after life. And through that way, eons, like that way. Thank you.
Om Padme Hum, Om Mani 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 Padme